કેમ્બ્રિજ યુનિવર્સિટીમાં એને પોતાનું કોલેજ જોઈને અહીંયા યુનિવર્સિટીમાં એ 1622માં ઓરેટર તરીકે સિલેક્ટ થયો હતો, ઓરેટર ઓફ ધ યુનિવર્સિટી. એન્ડ ઇટ ઇઝ ધ વક્તા ઓફ યુનિવર્સિટી એન્ડ ઇટ ઇઝ ધ વેરી હાઈએસ્ટ, એ પોતાની એને શ્રેષ્ઠ સિદ્ધિ માનતો હતો શિક્ષણિક વર્ષો દરમિયાન. એન્ડ લેટર ઓન એ જોઈન એ ચર્ચમાં જોડાયો, લેટર ઓન એ કોર્ટ દરબારમાં જોડાયો. પણ અહીંયા 10 વર્ષના સમયગાળામાં 20 થી 30 વર્ષના સમયગાળામાં એને અવગણના જેવું ફીલ કરવા લાગ્યો, કારણ કે કોર્ટના માણસો એને અવગણી રહ્યા હતા. એટલા માટે એ ચર્ચમાં પાદરી બની ગયો. અને અહીંયા એ એના મિત્ર નિકોલસ હેર્બર્ટ સાથે જોડાઈ અને કવિતાઓ લખી, એની સાથે સાથે એને જીવનભર ચર્ચના સુધારા કરવા માટે પોતાનો ફાળો. Now we discuss about his contribution in the field of that. He was, I can say, the beginning of my lecture, I can say that John Donne is called or considered the father of metaphysical poetry. John Donne is considered the father of metaphysical poetry. And this, remember that John Donne is considered the father of metaphysical, or known as metaphysical poetry. That John Donne and is the first, and the second place in metaphysical poetry is the George Herbert. And he is remembered for, we can say that he is notable or remembered for his purity and effectivity of his choice of word. Whenever he have to write down his poetry, so where the purity, Suddhata and effectiveness, and that the word written by the George Herbert in his poem that touch to our heart. And there is a purity, and we can say that simplicity or effectiveness of the choice of word is most important. Further say that we can say that second thing that he is the, we can say that comparatively well known to the most eminent poet or the metaphysical poet John Donne. And what is the speciality of both of them? That is speciality of the use of common language in the rhymes of speech. Generally, whenever we speak, we cannot use the figure of speech or decorated or language. We can just simple our regional or dialect. સામાન્ય રીતે મિત્રો આપણે બોલતા હોય ભાષા, ત્યારે આપણે એમાં વાતચીતની ભાષામાં આપણે બહુ ઉચ્ચ શબ્દ, હા આપણે કોઈ જગ્યાએ સ્પીચ આપતા હોય, કોઈ જગ્યાએ આપણે કોઈ જગ્યાએ વક્તા તરીકે બોલતા હોય, તો આપણે શુદ્ધ શબ્દ યોગ્ય ભાષાનો ઉપયોગ, ત્યારે આપણે વાતચીતની ભાષામાં આપણે પ્રાદેશિક અથવા બોલીની ભાષાને વાતચીત કરે, એ સરળતા એને in the language of John Donne and George Herbert, the use of common language, therefore speech was spoken by the ordinary person in the rhyme of speech. But there was just, you can what add there, the speech add the rhyme. Those are one part of the language, and he can use the rhyme, and rhythm is the part of the poetic language. Just they use the common language of the ordinary person, but they only add the rhyme and rhythm or speech in that language. And we can say that there are, we can hear, I can, whenever, how in his college time, he wrote the 2 poems that addressed to his mother. And in this poem, after that poem, he write down a letter to his mother, and he can say that, comparatively, he can say that the theme of that poem is that the love of God is fitterer subject for verse than the love of woman, a foreshadowing of the poetic and vocational band. He can say that he compared it there, that there was a platonic, or we can say that a physical love for the woman. સ્ત્રી માટેના સૌંદર્યનો પ્રેમ કરતાં તો ભગવાન માટેનો પ્રેમ વધારે ચડિયાતું છે. And from that is called time, that poem, that 2 sonnet, and he wrote, and this 2 sonnet sent to his mother. And here the theme of that sonnet is he gave from his college time to the love of God is more or better or greater than the love for a woman. And it suggests that he has a religious concept in his mind. And gradually, then he wrote He loved for writing the poetry. Whenever he was on the in third March in the 63rd on his dead bed in Maran Pathari Paradu. Even during that time he sent the manuscript of the poems, a collection of the poem of the temple, a sketch poem to his close friend Nicholas Federman and send the message that you read this poem. If you like that, they are right or they are proper to for the publication. Otherwise, you have destroyed it. But these are the best poem, religious poem, and that likes very much to the Nicholas Federman, and he published that poem collection of the book, and the title of the book is The Temple, the Sacred Poems. Later on, and among them, the most memorable poem in this collection of the poem, the temple, the church porch, the church militant, the altar, Easter wings, and pattern. The theme of this, we can say this, the theme of the temple and theme of most of his poem is Herbert himself write down that a picture of the many spiritual conflict that have passed between God and my soul. What I write down the poems, all the religious poems. What is it? They are the picture of my. There was a pictures. We can say that many spiritual relation between a God and myself. There was a relation between God and myself, and that relation, I have spiritual relation, Adhyatmic Prem. I reflect in my poetry. Further say that before I could subject mind the will of Jesus, my master, in whose service I have found a perfect freedom. I have to like the freedom, I have to like the duty to service my great God, and that my great God is the Jesus Christ. The central theme કે હું સૌથી વધારે હું જો મારા અને મારા ભગવાન વચ્ચેના આધ્યાત્મિક સંબંધો અને મારા માલિક એટલે જીસસ ક્રિસ્ટની સેવામાં જે ભાવ પેદા થાય એ ભાવને હું કવિતા તરીકે રજૂ કરું છું. એ કવિતા જસ્ટ લાઈક નરસિંહ મહેતા, મીરાબાઈ, કબીર, those are the experience we have to come across in their real life, and they have to express their experience through their relation with the God. In the same way, તે નરસિંહ મીરા અને કબીરની જેમ જ્યોર્જ હર્બર્ટ પણ પોતાના ભગવાન સાથેના સંબંધને પોતાની કવિતાઓમાં ભક્તિ સ્વરૂપે, ભજન સ્વરૂપે એ રજૂ કરતો હતો. And that's why the poetry of the in 18th century, Joseph Addison, after century, Joseph Addison, you have to study a periodical, when you study the paper 1, a famous periodical essayist. The name of that is Joseph Addison. I think that in acquaintance you study paper 1, taught by Kamlesh sir. And this Joseph Addison also comment about that. We can say that he can say about that the poetry of Robert Herbert is the plain sweet due to downfall. But again, it was no one can believe in this kind of philosophy. Those philosophy believed by in even the great, you can say the poet, Ashley Coleridge, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, a romantic poet of romantic age, and he can say the very wonderful words for the poetries of the George Herbert. This is what say that I quote, nothing can be more pure, manly, and all we can say and unaffected. Nothing can be આટલું બધું શુદ્ધ, આટલું ઉત્તમ અને કોઈ પ્રકારનું નોન અનફેક્ટેડ એવું ઉત્તમ પ્રકારની કવિતા તો કોઈ બીજી અત્યારે હર્બર્ટ જેવી કવિતા કોઈ બીજું લખી શક્યું. એસટી પોટેડ અબાઉટ ધેટ પ્યોર, manly and non-affected poetry. That was a શુદ્ધ અનિશુદ્ધ ભક્તિમય કવિતાઓ જ્યોર્જ હર્બર્ટ જેવી બીજો કોઈ લખી શક્યો નથી. Further we can say at the end, in the conclusion, we can say about that George Herbert, due to that George Herbert was a versatile poet. Versatile એટલે વિલક્ષણ, multi-talented poet. a versatile master of metrical form and all the aspect of the art of poetry or craft of poetry. He was a metrical master, એટલે કે છંદ, અલંકાર અને કાવ્યનું બંધારણનો લખવાનો એક નિષ્ણાત હતો. ફર્ધર, though George Herbert shared the critical disapproval of the metaphysical poet, but even then, among those metaphysical poets, he was extremely popular as a poet with the readers. Even today, the readers are lover of the poetry of the George Herbert. And finally, we can say that, and that's why, and it suggested that still the popular with the reader, it suggested that George Herbert, in his short period of time, of 40 years of age, he can got the reputation as a poet, as a saint, as a pure person in the history of English literature, particularly the metaphysical poetry. Just a last સારાંશ આપણે લઈ લઈએ. જોર્જ હર્બર્ટ લાઈફસ્પાન 1593-1633. He belonged to the 17th century. Speciality English religious poet, priest, orator, belonged to the literary movement, metaphysical poets. His notable works, The Temples, Carriage Poems, and Private Egypt's Calculation in 1633, beat on a priest to the temple or the country parson, Character and Rule of Life in 1652. And those are the very popular single poem of the church. These are the collection of poems. They are the separate or single poem. And the church will return the altar, Easter wings, the patterns. They are very popular poem. And his life, he was home educated, and he has got the education in Westminster School, and he was got the higher education in the Trinity College, Cambridge, and he was elected as the 1622 the orator in university, and he is the highest achievement of his academic or educational career. He was become in 1630 due to the negligence of the court. He can become the priest in 1630, and with his close friend Nicholas Ferrier, he can write down the poetry, and he can say that played the vital role in the reformation of the church. And his contribution, he wrote in his college time, he wrote the 2 sonnets addressed to his mother. The theme of that, he belonged to the love of God is greater and better than love for the woman. His poetry, temple in this, he can master of the metrical art of the poetry. He was used in the simple language, the use of common language, in the rhyme of the speech. He was, you can say, the comparison or contemporary of the John Donne, and both of used this kind of language. Even there, St. Coleridge and Joseph Addison and St. Coleridge, they also in 18th and 19th century, they appreciate the poetry of the George Herbert, and this suggested that, and the popularity of his suggests that he is popular with the reader. Okay friends, thank you, goodbye.